So thank you everyone for joining. We are so happy to have you here, and we want to make sure to thank the River Forest Police Department and Emlee Hilliard-Smith from formerly of the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. Thank you so much for joining us today and helping people to learn how to prevent different scams and fraud.
Our pleasure. Thanks for having us.
Yes.
All right. Do you want to get started right now?
Sure, whenever you're ready.
All right. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Happy to have you here. My name is Officer Ben Ransom. I am the Crime Prevention Officer here at River Forest Police Department. I am also the Elderly Service Officer. So that means that I have some specific training in elderly service, following up with elderly residents, victims on a various number of crimes, and doing referrals with senior services. I work with adult protective services as well in cases of neglect and abuse, and so I'm very try to stay in tune with our elderly population and offer as much services and support as I can. So I have 8 years with the department. I worked on patrol for my first 6 years, and now I work primarily in the schools and in these other capacities as crime prevention, business liaison, and elderly service. So a big part of what I do, especially with the businesses and with our elderly population, is talk about scams and fraud, which is why we're here today. And we'll just get right into it. So thinking of how crimes occur and how people are victimized as a whole, we look at 3 parts of this triangle, which are motivation, means, and opportunity. Of course, the offender has the motivation to commit the crime. Usually the motivation is money, but they lack perhaps the means or the opportunity. And the goal of this presentation, the goal of crime prevention in general, is to not provide the opportunity specifically, and sometimes the means. So they need all parts of those triangles. We don't want to offer them anything to make it easier to commit that crime. We talk about victim profiling, and in case you haven't realized it yet, our older population is specifically targeted specifically for scams and fraud. And I'm going to give you an example of a common scam that I'm sure many of you have heard of, and then we'll talk about why our elderly population is targeted. So probably heard about this. It happens everywhere. It happens in River Forest, and this has happened to me even on my police cell phone. But let me just break down this scenario real quick so we're all on the same page. You get a phone call from someone claiming to be from the IRS. He seems to have an accent, but gives you his full name and his federal badge number. He then explains that you owe money to the IRS, and unless you pay now, the IRS will be issuing a warrant for your arrest. The question is, of course, what do? Are you going to agree and run out and purchase a gift card, which is usually what they ask for, because they're not going to ask for you to write a check. They're going to ask for a gift card where they will have you scratch off the back of the gift card and give them the number, because it's not traceable that way, and they can do it over the phone. Will you call the police? Will you hang up? So just think about that, and we're gonna explain a little bit more of what you should do. But now that you have this scenario in the back of your mind, let's move forward. So when we talk about a scammer targeting you, what are the tools that they're using? What opportunity are you providing to them, either knowingly or unknowingly, that is going to enable them to commit that crime? The first thing that they capitalize on is your fear. They like to create fear in order to get you to act. Okay, so the IRS calling because you have an outstanding warrant may instill enough fear to you to not think logically and get you to send the money right now because you're afraid that you're going to be arrested or your good name is going to be tarnished. Okay, so they're operating off of fear. Second thing would be ignorance, and this goes hand in hand. So if you don't understand how an organization works, whether it's the IRS, if you don't understand that the IRS will not be calling you, telling you to pay them money, or maybe it is a plumber showing up at your door saying that his boss sent him a work order to come to your house, and maybe you don't understand how all that works. Well, your ignorance may offer an opportunity for them to capitalize on that and commit the crime. Okay, so we have fear, ignorance. Another big issue, and I would say that, oh, I skipped one. So time. A lot of times they will play on time and tell you that there's no time. If you don't pay right now, we're going to issue that warrant. Okay, it decreases your time to think logically and to stop and say, okay, let me think about this, let me look into this, let me do some research before I act. No, they're saying there is no time. You either are going to do it or you're not. And because of that, you are rushed into making a rash decision. Fourth, we have trust, and this is more of an opinion, I think, but I believe that our older residents are probably a little more trusting than the newer generations. This might be because society was more worthy of that trust in the past, or victims might think that, oh, this person isn't going to prey on a poor old man, a poor old woman. But guess what? They absolutely will, and that's what they're looking for. So as sad as it sounds, I want everyone to start being a little less trusting, to start being a little more suspicious of that phone call that comes in, that email, that person that shows up here at your door. There's nothing wrong with being a little extra cautious, especially after viewing this presentation, and maybe you've probably had your own life experiences with this, to get you not to assume that everyone is a criminal, but just to slow down and take these steps in order to protect yourselves. And the final thing is greed. And, you know, we're all human, and all of us would probably like a little more money in our wallets, especially if you're living on a fixed income. But greed can get in the way, and trying to capitalize on an opportunity that someone is proposing to you when it probably sounds too good to be true, you know, that could cloud your judgment and enable you to provide these opportunities for these crimes to be committed. So these are not all of the aspects of what the tools in the tool chest that the offender will use, but certainly ones that we see often. So I'm sure more can be added to this list. So thinking about all of that, let's go back to our IRS call. So that IRS call that I described is what's known as an imposter scam, because the caller is an imposter impersonating someone from the IRS, right? So we have to remember that the fraud and scam seeks to prey on your lack of knowledge or fear of inaction in order to rush your decisions, making you or tricking you out of your hard-earned money. So what do we have? We have victims told they're owed money, could be IRS, the Social Security Administration, utility company. They're directed to pay immediately, often with a prepaid card or wire transfer, and threatened to arrest if they don't comply. I don't like to just read off of my slides directly, but these are kind of step-by-step on what to look for, so I will read them to you. You don't have to squint too hard at the screen. I'll just read them out to you. So what might they do? They might give a fake name and an IRS badge number to sound a little more official. That name and that badge number will not correspond to anything within the IRS, but now you don't have time to verify that. So you're taking them at their word for that, right? That if they have something to tell you like that, give you a fake number and a fake name, it lends a little bit to their credibility, at least initially in your mind, or that's what they're hoping. They might know some information about you, maybe the last 4 digits of your social security number, to make you think, oh, well, they must be the IRS because they know this information about you. They might even send a phony letter to corroborate the story or the phone call. And there will be, a lot of times, some red flags that might tip you off, such as a strong accent. You know, it's very often these IRS scams that they're coming out of India, Pakistan. And so there will be a strong accent. And it's just one thing to consider. It doesn't necessarily mean that someone with an accent can't be working for the IRS, but one thing to consider and add to the totality of the circumstances. So what is our response? Okay. This what is our response in all these sections is going to be very similar. And the first thing is that you need to stop, slow down, and think it through. Whatever they tell you about, you don't have time, there's no time, just stop, wait, think about it, and then, you know, don't send your money right away. You can hang up and you can report it. You can call someone, you can call a trusted friend, family member, you can Google it, you can search it online, you can call your police department, you can call me. I'm going to be providing my information. Every so often I get calls of, hey, just want to know, just want a quick advice. Do you think this is a scam? 2-minute phone call. Save yourself the trouble and the hassle of sending money and then trying to recuperate it, which most likely in these crimes, we cannot recover this money because it is being sent across seas willingly, and there's not really a way to get it back. So in this case, we're talking about imposter scams, usually phone calls. Just hang up. Just hang up. If it really was a problem, if it really was a problem with the IRS, they wouldn't be contacting you in this way. They do not offer, or they do not issue warrants. They do not act as a police department and law enforcement. That's just not how it works, and that goes into the ignorance. They are hoping that you don't understand how these processes work so they can take advantage. All right. So similar marketing scams where you receive an offer, phone call, email, or mail, or solicitor for discounts, lottery. And what they want you to do is say, and this is kind of plays into the greed aspect that I was talking about, but they'll say, oh, you won $10,000. Now all you have to do is pay a $500 fee to secure it and pay for the armored truck transport or what have you, and then we'll get that money to you right away. So then you think, well, I don't want to miss on this $10,000, so that's a small price to pay, $500, to secure that money. So you send them off the $500, and you never hear from them again. So again, there's no rush. There's also no prize. This is too good to be true, right? So we know that old saying, if it's too good to be true or sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Just like hang up, delete the email, rip up the letter, hang up the phone. Refrain from providing your personal contact info to these types of calls and messages, and then contact your own source to inquire. Google is a wonderful tool for things like this, because chances are if you're getting this offer, someone else has gotten in the past, and someone else has probably already gotten duped by it. So learn from other people's mistakes. Use Google, use the internet to research these things, and do your own research on top of the other options I provided to make sure that you're not getting scammed. Now, talk quickly about healthcare scams. I do want to point out these scams are rapidly evolving, changing, just as technology is changing. So I can't go through every single one and tell you what's going to happen. I can only really give some specifics of what we see in River Forest, and then some broad tips to protect yourselves, because whatever the new scam is coming out, it's going to be the same answer, is to stop, don't send money, slow down, do your research, contact someone you trust, all these things. So really it's not necessarily just about teaching you about how to respond to specific scams and fraud, but how to change your mindset in order to be able to adapt to anything that comes your way. And that's why it's important to be a little more suspicious, a little more cautious in general, and to be able to do what you need to find out if it's accurate or not. So with healthcare scams, these have a broad range, but I focusing on the medical breakthroughs, the medication overstock. They'll use medical jargon that perhaps you don't understand. They might require some upfront payment, promising that you'll get your money back guaranteed if there's any issues, and you'll pay, and you'll either receive nothing or you'll receive some placebo pill that's just a salt pill or something, salt tablet, and that doesn't really work. So again, stop, and just in any of these situations, just think of who would be the expert in that situation. So in this situation, contact your doctor with questions. You can contact the Attorney General's office to report a scam through that 800 number I have at the bottom. The Attorney General's office, by the way, is an outstanding resource for all of you, and I have all of their resources here that I have put out to our officers, and they are available within our systems. I create basically care packs of all the information online should you need them. But the Attorney General's office is who trained me in elderly service. They do my certification, and they're a great resource. If you haven't looked into them, check out their website and see what they can offer, or you can contact me for more on that. Charity scams. These often come, in the mail, but it could be a solicitor, sometimes over the phone. The charity might have an unfamiliar name, or doesn't have a program in Illinois, or it sounds similar to a reputable organization, but it's not actually the same one. They might be, the solicitors are often paid. It's almost like a pyramid scheme, but they're paid salesmen to basically go and get these charity, I'll put that in quotations, charity checks, and they get a cut of the money which goes back, to the person who's setting up this scam. So they won't be able to answer basic questions about the charity. They're going to use high pressure tactics or guilt to make you make your decisions quicker, ask for cash instead of a check, and give you some reason why that's easier for them, better for them, and they might insist on sending someone to pick up the donation. So again, stop. If it's suspicious, do not donate. If you need to, just say, let me think about it, and give me your contact information. I'll call you. Don't tell them come back in another day, or or call me back later. Just tell them you can leave your information with me if you have a flyer, and if I decide that's what I'm going to do, then I'll contact you. But either way, you're creating space. You're closing your door. You're hanging up the phone, and you're giving yourself some time to think about it and to look deeper into it. That's all we want. We want to get some distance, some time, in order to think clearly. These people are maybe like a car salesman, where they're very good at rushing you and making you feel like you have to make a decision right now, that you're going to have the opportunity now to do it, and they're pretty good at it. So we need to be able to say, hang on, you as yourselves, you control the timeline of the situation. It's your money, and you control whether or not where it goes, or not you're going to give it up. Okay, and of course, I don't want you to give it up. It's a scam. So you can contact the Attorney General's office to see if they're a registered charity. You can even ask what percentage of the donation goes to the cause. I've done this. I've said, oh, what percentage goes to the cause? And if they don't know right away, I just say, oh, well, if you don't know enough about it, then I can't give you money. That's a nice, easy out for me. Then I don't feel like I'm pressured. Like, oh, I'm just a very good steward with my money, and I want to make sure it's going to the right cause. I like to give, but if you don't know enough information, then it's not for me. Okay, so turn that back around. Now, a lot of you watching have probably, maybe everyone who's watching has actually gotten this phone call, because I've gotten it myself. But the IDES fraud scam that's going around during the pandemic, where people are filing, with the Department of Revenue to receive these funds based on unemployment in your name. Sometimes they're in the name of people who are deceased or who aren't working anymore, and I don't want to speak for IDS, but because of the influx and all the need, this has been rampant. And I don't know if they just haven't been able to keep up with all the claims, or they haven't been able to look into them and investigate them properly. But what we do know is that we have a lot of residents calling saying, oh, someone filed for this in my name, and I received the card in the mail, and what's going on here. So what it is, it involves someone fraudulently filing for unemployment in your name, and they might receive a debit card, though they didn't file. And fraud claims with the IDES were reportedly up from 13,000 in 2019 to 186,000 in 2020. So that is a 1,300% increase. So, I mean, it's just rampant. So I just want to remind you not to freak out if this happens, if you receive the card. IDES has recommended reporting the incident to their website, monitoring your personal accounts. So for more information on that, let me bring this up. You can go to illinois.gov/IDES. And if you ever are concerned that maybe your identity was taken or can be used against you, or you've given up information, you can always contact us, make a police report, and we'll give you some documents to help you investigate your finances and your credit score and everything further to make sure that you safeguard yourself for the future. So sometimes like something like this has nothing to do with people giving these offenders the opportunity. They were able to obtain the opportunity through whatever the situation is. In this case, they're taking advantage of the pandemic. But sometimes I'll get a call where the resident accidentally gave someone their social security number. They didn't realize who they were talking to. They gave up their social security number, and then it was too late. They realized their mistake. They hung up right away. Like, now what do I do? Well, in that case, call our police department and make a report. We'll help you, guide you on reporting it to your banks issuing holds or flagging your bank accounts, and protecting yourself in the future. But it's okay to make mistakes, and we don't want to be ashamed of it. We still want to act. We don't want to be too embarrassed to report it, because things can get worse from there. So just want to mention that, and that might come up later. So some other scams. We have the family member in trouble scam. This was a little more rampant years ago, but whereas the grandson, granddaughter is calling from out the country saying, "Oh, I owe money and they want to arrest me, and can you wire me money?" There's a common pigeon drop scam, which plays on greed, where someone pretends to find some cash and says they'll split it with you, and they end up taking you to the bank, and it can go out in various directions from that. But basically, somehow they end up having you deposit some of your money, and then they walk away, and you think you get an envelope full of cash, and it's not there. Password reset scams, a lot of online scams now. Well, you'll get an email from what looks like a reputable company, a service provider. So a big one that I was seeing last year was Netflix, the movie streaming app. They get an email from what looks to be Netflix and says, "Oh, your password needs to be changed because we updated security," whatever. You click on the link and it takes you to a whole nother website, or it adds malware to your computer or what have you. So a common tip in this kind of situation is if you get an email saying they ask you to click on a link, never click on that link. So if you get an email from Netflix telling you to click on the link, go to a different web browser, go to Netflix, log into your account, and see if there's anything that needs to change. We never want to click on a link to take us, because it can take you wherever they want to send you. Okay, so if they're asking you to do something with your accounts, online banking, any kind of service provider, exit that email, exit that page, open up your own web browser, and go in and log on to that and see if there's anything that needs to be done. Sweetheart scams take advantage, usually of older men who are widowers and who are lonely, and these actually involve young women who are trained scammers who are very good at wooing older men, and eventually, once they build up a relationship with you, and the victim thinks that this young woman cares about them and supports them and loves them, they start to ask for money, or, "Oh, my sister has a business and it's failing right now. Can you wire us some money to help the business go?" and what have you. The scam is, and we have seen not necessarily here in River Forest, but in my training and examining of this matter, and we've seen cases where men have lost their entire retirement fund, or their grandkids funds for their grandkids' college, or everything, just completely lost their house because they were so wrapped up and so conned to thinking that this young lady loved them, and this was their new love, and who they're going to spend the rest of their life with. I haven't seen any of those cases here, but in our area, those do exist. And fortune telling scams as well. Any questions on that, feel free to ask towards the end of the presentation. So remember, don't trust a name or a number. A big one is that the government will not take payment from a gift card. They won't ask you to wire money. They won't ask you for a prepaid card. But that's what the scammers do. It's very easy for them, much easier and quicker for them to say, go to your nearest grocery store, go to Walgreens, get a gift card, come home, scratch off the back, and give me the code. Then they will enter that code in online and take the funds from that gift card. So unfortunately, we have had people who have believed that this was the IRS and have given money, paid money to what they thought was the IRS through scratching the back of a gift card. Now, hopefully, thinking about that sounds so ridiculous. You think, what? The federal government would never ask me to pay with a gift card. But like I said, they're preying off your ignorance. They're rushing you. They're instilling fear, and they're hoping that you won't be able to think clearly, so that you're just saying, okay, whatever I have to do so that I don't get arrested today, I'm going to do. So again, we want you to slow down and understand that that's not the way that these things operate. But in majority, and Emily will be able to tell you this too, overall, we see this the most often recently is with the backs of scratching off gift cards and giving those codes. That is like number one way that they ask for payment now. And so that's a huge red flag if you hear that. So those are most of the scams that are not in person. We want to talk briefly about ruse scams. So our ruse scams are home repair fraud, repaving your driveway or sealing your driveway. Goes into ruse burglaries and others. We'll talk a little bit more about those and break those down. So with home repair fraud, we have people showing up at your door, convincing you to gain their trust with pleasant conversation, very personable. Again, these are professional scammers. This is all they do. This is how they make a living, and often they make a very good living at this. So they're very good at their jobs, and they you know, they've been doing this since they were teenagers. This is kind of a lifestyle for them. So they might walk around and point out an area of your property that needs work. If they're claiming to be from a roofing company, they're obviously going to point at your roof, saying, "Oh, your shingles are missing," or "Oh, I see that this needs to be replaced." Again, playing on your ignorance that you don't know what work needs to be done in your house, and they're the professionals, so they can tell you, right? Or they might offer a low price or say, "Oh, I have some leftover shingles in my truck. I can give you a discount if you want to do it today, but I got to unload this now." Again, rushing you to make a decision now. And then they might obtain payment right away or half down, or they're going to charge you an exorbitant amount, and then the work might be completed, but it will certainly be substandard. In some of these repair scams, you know, we'll have someone say, "Oh, you have a dent in your car, let me pop that dent out for you," and they spray something on there and usually make it look worse than it is, and then by the time you realize that they didn't fix anything, they're on their way with your $800, when really if you took it to a shop, you might have been able to pop out that dent for $75 or something like that. So we're talking about jacked up prices, rushing you, substandard work, obviously all things we want to avoid. So those kinds of scams, you know, they tend to deal with your property, your house, driveway, your car. So here's some tips. Never let a stranger in your house unless you requested them. If you weren't expecting them, don't accept them, is what we say. Do your own research. Don't show them where you keep your money, and we'll talk about why that's important. You should be able to obtain estimates for your work, compare prices. You know, you want to maybe get a second opinion if it's a big job. Like I just had my roof repaired. I had 2 different roofing companies come out to assess it, and I compared the prices, compared what they said they were going to do. Right? That's a very normal, acceptable way to do business. Avoid supplying them with information. Like I said, these scammers are very good at talking. They're very good at getting you to talk. So they might say, "Oh yeah, I saw your son out here. What's your son's name? John?" And you say, "No, my son's name is Tim." "Oh, that's right, Tim. I remember. So I saw Tim out here, and he said that I should stop by and take a look at your furnace." Now you just gave him Tim's name, and he's going to keep using that. And every time he says it, you think, "Oh, he does know Tim," or you know, he's weaseling his way in to get more information out of it. So we don't want to supply anything. Keep your doors locked. This sounds very simple, but oftentimes we have burglaries, especially with burglaries to our vehicles. You know, we expect that it's always locked up, and we end up finding that they left their car doors unlocked overnight, or they left their house unlocked overnight. So, or during the day. So the locks are there for a reason. Use them. If you have security alarms, we've seen it where security alarms were not used overnight or during the day. If you have those, use them. Hang on, excuse me. Hey guys, I'm presenting here. Sorry about that. We have a police department running in the background, so. All right. So, never allow unsolicited repairs on the spot. Okay, like I said, if we want to have, if they're going to approach you and maybe it goes well enough that you can get away without paying, tell them, you know, I have to think about it, I have to decide, I'll call you back. Same thing like some of the other scenarios that I pointed out. Never allow them on the spot, because again, they're preying off. They want to rush you and make these rash decisions without doing any research. Don't pay up front. Obtain a written contract. These are business deals. These involve a lot of money. They should have a contract. They should agree to a work, have signatures. If anything is lacking where it doesn't seem professional, then it might not be. So see that as a red flag. And of course, trust your instincts. Lots of years, we all have lots of experience of dealing with people, and we hopefully have a certain level of instinct to know when something doesn't seem right or too good to be true, or maybe the little hairs on the back of your neck are standing up and telling you that this isn't a good decision. Well, trust those instincts just enough to get by yourself some extra time and find out the truth. So this home repair scam leads into the next issue, which is ruse burglaries, okay, which is a little more, I'd say a lot more scary, okay, because what they'll do is they will use that same pretense of work needing to be done to distract you. So it'll be teams of 2 or more individuals, and one will walk around your house. Oh, I need to look at this, take you somewhere where you're not, able to see the other person coming in, and someone else will come in and burglarize your home. So it works on distraction, and it usually results in a theft or burglary, usually because they're entering unlawfully into your property as a burglary. So for example, the offender might pose as a contractor, utility worker, electrician, or an employee of a company that recently did work. So if they saw a truck out there last week working on your siding, and they see the company name, they'll write that down, because they do their research and they do their own reconnaissance, and they might come back and say, oh, I work for that trucking company, and he told me to stop back and see if there's anything else you need. And then that's their in, because you think, oh, he knows the name of the company that worked on here last week. How does he know that unless he works for them, right? So somewhat clever. This was a case from earlier this year. And this white minivan was the offender's van, where they pulled up to this house, and they said, now see, this might sound silly, but it worked, okay? But they said that they were working on the victim's neighbor's house, and they had placed acid in their water lines, and they had to check the victim's water supply to make sure that the acid had not reached his pipes. So the victim said, oh, okay, if you got to check, then come and check, because I don't want anything wrong with my plumbing. And so while that person came inside the house, he radioed someone who was waiting outside this van. They ran upstairs, and they burglarized the home. Loss was cash and jewelry, because they usually know what they're looking for. Now, not in this case, but it's not unheard of that they might have been there the week before and asked if there's some work needs to be done or something like that. Or maybe they have you pay for something and they're looking for, where you store your money. So our intelligence shows that sometimes they'll show up at a house a couple times while they're doing their research, and they might ask for a payment for something. And then if you go into your kitchen, you pull off your little cookie jar, and that's where you keep your cash. Now, when they end up coming back to do a burglary, not just a scam, they know exactly where to go, because they're going to go in the kitchen. They have their little notes. Oh, money's in the cookie jar. Kitchen cookie jar. They're in and out in 2 minutes. And if not, they know, like I said, they're experienced. They know where to look. They know to go up in your bedroom and look in your sock drawer to see where your jewelry is. They know to look up in your closet and look in the top boxes where you keep your extra cash. They're experienced. So we'll have people, oh, how did he know to go? How did he know to go up into my bedroom? Because that's where we keep our valuables. It's pretty normal to, So if you're concerned with that, you can always invest in a little hand safe or something. But don't be surprised that they know what they're doing. Like I said, they are professionals. This is what they do for a living, and they're often quite good at it. Briefly talking about identity theft, it occurs when a criminal obtains your personal information or uses it, credit cards, bank statements, social security numbers, to purchase goods or services fraudulently. And it can range from filing taxes, tax returns, setting up utilities, other services. Last year, I think someone used my credit card to start to take online courses in through Colorado or something like that. And the credit card companies and they're pretty good if you report it right away, that you won't be responsible for those funds, but important to know and to take the right steps after that. So protect yourself against ID theft. Don't give out your social security number. Don't give out personal info. We talked about all this, but I just want to hit it home again. Outgoing bills, you can mail those at the post office mailbox. Shred your personal documents. Check your accounts. Report your discrepancies. I would recommend that if you don't bank online, you might be used to just doing everything in person, but open up those online accounts, set up, you can go into the bank to help set them up, but set up those alerts through emails and stuff. So if anything seems off, they'll contact you just to get that extra level of security and protection. And you can check your credit report yearly. I don't know too much about that. Maybe Emily can chime in on that, but you can get at least one free yearly credit report check to verify that everything's okay. And if you're a victim of ID theft, and I mentioned this, but I just want to mention it again, and it might be something major, like someone just bought a car in your name, or it might be something minor, like I gave out my email to someone, and then I gave them my birth date, and it seemed suspicious. Talk to us. We can do a full-on report. We can do a little blurb that is still given an event number and saved forever. But at any level, you'll be instructed to report it to your creditors, to report to police. You can get fraud alerts on your credit report. You can freeze your credit account if you need to, and then we have an information sheet, kind of like a checklist of telling you to contact, the 3 credit bureaus, and just different steps you can take to protect yourself after the fact. So, as everything gets digitalized and everything goes away from cash, this stuff is more frequent, more common, and that's to be expected. So we have to use these same tools to protect ourselves, and they're out there, and they work pretty well. So there's a lot out there, but it's like I said, I was a victim of this just last year. It happens, and it's kind of really knowing what to do if it happens to you and what to do after to protect yourself from it again. So remember, as I close, if you do not expect them, do not accept them. Don't be afraid to, I want to talk about the pigeon scam, but don't be afraid to hang up the phone, to slam or shut the door closed, rip up those letters, if it's not worth your time, and quite frequently it's not. I don't even let my wife open up a door to anyone. Talk to them through the window, keep that door locked, because we just don't know people's intentions these days. And if you didn't expect them to come and they're on your doorstep, again, we don't want to accept them, and we don't want to necessarily give them an opportunity to get inside their house or to get us to come out while they distract us to run around the backside of the house and burglarize something or whatever else might happen. And I'm not trying to scare anyone, but again, I just want you to be a little more cautious as we move forward. And remember, our officers are there on patrol 24/7. We're driving around. It is not an inconvenience for us to stop by and check someone's credentials, check their badge, and their verify something with their employer. It is not a hassle. It is part of our service, and we're happy to do it. So don't think that you're inconveniencing us by calling the non-emergency number and just saying, "Hey, can you check this person out? He said he's here with Comcast, and he has to run a line." And sometimes, and quite actually, most often, I check, and that person really is from Comcast, and they really do have a work order, and they're just telling me exactly what they're going to do, how long they're going to be there. I can talk to their employer, or the contractor. So, but then you have the peace of mind, that they're good to be there, and we have their information if anything goes awry. So, I talked pretty fast. I got through a lot of things. One last thing is, if in the past you were scammed. I'm not talking like maybe 20 years ago, but let's say 6 months ago, or something's going on right now. This is ringing a bell with something that's occurring with you right now. Tell a family member or friend. Don't keep these things a secret. The scammers want to try to convince you to keep it a secret through various different ways. But these crimes can go underreported because, if you get scammed, it's embarrassing. No one wants to feel like they had one pulled over on them, especially for thousands of dollars. But if you don't report it, It's harder to learn. It's harder to get informed for the next time. And then this scammer will probably come back for more money, or someone else will hear about it and they'll know that you're an easy target. Okay, so for anyone watching this now or later, the right thing to do is just be brave, come forward, make the report, let us know about it so we can inform other people and so you can be more informed for the future. Okay. At the bottom there is my contact information. That is my desk line and my email. As I said, it's not uncommon for me to get phone calls for advice. Now, I will say that as I've been making myself available for this, I have been getting more phone calls, so I can't promise you that I will get right to it that day or that hour. This is more of a long-term thing. You've got some simple questions. But if there's an issue where you need help right now, you can call 911. If someone's at your door, you can call a non-emergency number, which is 708 blanking. 366-7125. 708-366-7125 is our non-emergency number, and that goes right to our dispatch center. It just comes in as a non-emergency call. So use any of those resources. Call us out right that day. Follow up with me later, and I'm here at your disposal. So thank you everyone for your time, and maybe we can open it up to some questions. If there's any pressing questions, I guess we'll open it up now, and if not, we can hit it back after Emlee speaks.
Sure. If anyone has any questions, feel free to unmute yourself. And if you'd like to turn your camera on, you can do that. Or if you prefer, you can send it through the chat and we can ask it on your behalf. Does anyone have any questions for Officer Ransom? Okay, it doesn't seem like anybody has any at the moment, but if any come to mind later on, feel free to pipe in at the end with them. Otherwise, Emlee, we turn it over to you.
Thank you. My name is Emlee Hilliard-Smith. I'm a retired Senior Enforcement Counsel for the United States Securities and Exchange Commission. I practice securities laws for more than 30 years. And I used to do a lot of these presentations, and unfortunately, the need remains. We have now gone through a year of COVID, something we've never been through before. And you would think that people might want to take it a little bit easy on scams, but that's not been the case. So today, what I want to do is highlight some scams and fraud, financial fraud, programs that people want to scam you out of your money. And I want to talk about pre-pandemic and during COVID, since we aren't out of it yet, that there are things that are very, very similar and repeat from what Ben's presentation was, things like using gift cards for payment and what have you. So prior to the pandemic, we had Ponzi schemes, we had pump and dump schemes where people, if you're on a chat room on the computer and they're telling you this is going to be the next IBM stock, invest in it. It's only $3 now, but it's going to go up to $100. And people, not knowing who's saying this, would invest. And for a few days, the price of the stock would go up. And then all of a sudden it would crash and go back to its more normal level of just $1 or a couple of dollars. That's called a pump and dump scheme. We all do it. And again, going back to what Ben said, why do we do it? We're rational people. We know how to think, but we rush because potential greed, potential, I haven't done enough to sustain my lifestyle, so let me catch up. Fear is a motivating factor. Greed is a motivating factor, and everybody likes a good deal. So that's what we do. We have people prior to the pandemic, we had people, you've got the African prince who has $15 million, and he's going to give you an opportunity for only $1,500 to get that 15 million because he can't cash that in his country, but we can cash it in ours. If you've ever received a check in the mail that you don't know why you got it, but it's a nice size check, $500, $300, $1,500, and you take it to your bank and you deposit it, the bank accepts it, but within 3 days, please don't spend that money because the bank's going to be backing it back out of your account. It's a bogus check, but it looked good. you got the money, but in exchange for that, the people who gave you the check, they now have all your banking information on the back of the check. In order for it to go through the system, you've put down your check number, they have your account number, they have your home address because it's printed on the check or on the deposit slip. So these are some of the ways that people get your personal information. Just yesterday, I got an email telling me that I had won this wonderful $500 gift card merely because I had visited a website. Well, no business can stay in business very long, giving you $500 for going to a website, especially if you can buy anything when you're on that website. And one of the ways, well, I knew it was a scam to begin with, but one of the ways I confirmed that it was I went to the address that it came from and I clicked on it. That's all it takes is a click. What's the end part of the address? If it's from a company and it's not showing that it's from IBM.com or Exxon.com, whatever, who is that? Who's sending you this? One of the ways, and Ben mentioned it several times, is stop. Just stop for a minute. Stop, take a moment. Why are you getting this offer? Who sent it to you? Do you know this person? Why do they want to share this great fortune, good fortune, and give you this opportunity? What do they get from it? That's the part we always forget to ask. What's it going to cost me? Why am I the one who's getting this wonderful gift opportunity? And what happens if it's bogus? How much money do I lose? What information do they get from me? I have gotten several, what looks to be from Wells Fargo Bank, emails saying, if I do not reply and verify that they're going to make a payment from my account of $1,500 to this person, please click here. Down to the little HUD house at the bottom of the page, it looks very real. I had to look very hard to figure out, well, first of all, I don't have a checking account at Wells Fargo, so that made it easy. I knew it was bogus. But it wasn't until I really looked hard at the logo at the top that was slightly fading towards the right-hand side that I realized this is totally bogus. They just they copied a page and then they wrote this. And again, the request inside the email is click here. Big warning, red flag. Do not click on anything. When you're on your computer, you get a pop-up that says it's from Microsoft and they have detected that there is a bug on your computer. There's malware on your computer. Click here and we can help you get rid of it. And it's only going to cost you $500, $600. Microsoft does not do that. Microsoft is never going to contact you and say there's a bug on your system. How would they know that? How many people, use Microsoft? How would they know on your particular computer that there's a bug? So you want to be careful with that. COVID. It's been a horrible year. This is my first year of retirement. I didn't get to go anywhere. I didn't get to do much. The only good thing I've seen from it is that I've saved money. But I've gotten more and more loyalty reward emails. Click here. I've been a good customer. Click here. I'm going to give you this. But oh, by the way, I need you to verify that this is your social security number or this is your bank card. No, give nobody that information. I got an email recently about a job interview that I have been granted. Well, I haven't applied for a job. How is it you are granting me an interview? It's a scam. Don't click on it. One of the biggest ones going on right now are the COVID payments that are coming to people who are at a certain income. And what people do is they take that money, which is intended for you to live on, and they tell you, no, don't pay your rent because the CARE Act says the landlord can't kick you out. Don't pay your rent. Let's take that money and invest it. And I have the perfect opportunity for you to invest in a high yield, guaranteed investment that in a marketplace where the banks aren't even paying you 0.25% interest I'm going to give you 5%. I'm going to give you 6% interest, and you're going to get it all back within 6 days. It's a scam. Don't do it. COVID brought the CARES Act. With the CARES Act, you're able to access your retirement accounts. If you're not 59 and a half without a penalty, you can take money out and use it hopefully for emergency purposes, but that's not what they want you to do. I'm going to show you again. Take out half of your 401k and let's invest it, because I have this 8% opportunity. It's not, I'm just looking at a question that came down. I'll get to your question in just a minute. They want you to use that money for other than the purpose it was intended for. So whenever anybody is asking you for money, why are they asking you for the money? What are they going to do with that money? Can they realistically give you what they are promising you? Can they do that? One of the questions that popped up was, what's the most prevalent scam, I think is what it was, in this community? I don't have that information. The SEC doesn't generally break down types of fraud by number of cases. A part of the problem is most people, unfortunately, do not report that they've been scammed, whether it's embarrassment, whether it's, I don't want to hear my kids tell me I'm too old and they're taking my money powers away, whatever it is. Most of us don't want to raise their hand and say, I got scammed. Or we're going to take it and we're going to take it through a legal course and I'm going to get my money back. If you have a brokerage account and you have a problem, first of all, how do you know about the problem? If you're not looking at your statements every month or quarterly, you don't know that you have a problem unless you're going to try and take something or add something to your account because you haven't paid attention. Stop. Open your mail or go online. If you do all of your finances online, go online and check your balances. Are they in the right ballpark? If you use credit cards, you should be checking that statement every month. And why do you have a couple $2, $3, $5 charges? Did you really go to Target and charge $2.02 for something? Did you really take your credit card out for that? You might have, because you get points. But if you didn't, it's a way of checking to see, does somebody have my credit card number? And are they using it? They don't go with huge amounts at first. They want to see if you're paying attention, and they take smaller amounts. On brokerage accounts and things, you are protected because when you opened your account, you signed an agreement for mediation. If you have a problem with your broker and it takes you a while to figure it out because you're not looking at your statements and you get there, first you start with the broker and ask questions. Then if that isn't satisfactory and you don't get it corrected, you go to their manager. There's an organization called FINRA, F-I-N-R-A. It is the Financial Regulatory Organization. They have a headquarters here in Chicago. They regulate broker-dealers and investment advisors. They're kind of like under the SEC umbrella. They can help you resolve through mediation, because that's what your contract usually calls for. They can get brokers out of the industry. There are all sorts of things. They have enforcement powers. Another resource, Ben mentioned it too, Secretary of State's office. For this, for securities and things, there is the Illinois Secretary of State's Securities Division. They have a wide enforcement program. They're free to you. They don't litigate a case for you, but they can get a bad broker out of the industry. They can shut down Ponzi schemes, all sorts of things. The SEC, we tend to be more than $100 million under management for a company. That makes it a pretty big company. Again, if you have a problem online, sec.gov, G-O-V, you can file a complaint. Let us know that there's a problem. Are we going to call you up and say, hi, we're looking at your complaint? Hi, we're going to keep you apprised of what we're doing about it. That's not how our system works. We will not litigate for you, but let us know about it so things can get put into the works. Again, your brokerage account is managed by a mediation clause that you sign. I want to make sure, I just checking my notes. When people ask you to give them the last 4 digits of your social security number, why do they need it? What do they want it for? I just was at the doctor's office and they said, what's the last 4 digits of your social security number? I said, first of all, you already have that information, but second of all, what do you need that for? Challenge it. Ask a question. We all have within our own power the ability to stop fraud by stopping, paying attention, and asking questions. Most of us that are baby boomer age were brought up to be polite. You don't close the door in somebody's face. You don't hang up the phone. You hear the person out. Stop doing that. This is a whole new day. If you have any concern at all, if the hairs on the back of your neck go up, if they're not making sense to you, say no and hang up. You don't have to justify yourself. Just say, I'm not interested. Bye. Hang up. Do not open your door to somebody who you haven't invited to your home. They're a solicitor for whatever it is. They're a solicitor. If you really want to be solicited, don't do it. Slow down. Ask questions. The SEC has a wonderful website called investor.gov. Everything ends in GOV. At investor.gov, if you're not quite sure how you want to continue to invest in retirement, if you have already retired, or you're not sure how long your money is going to last, we have wonderful calculators on that website that can calculate how long will my money last, and you get to play around with the different numbers. Are you expecting a 1% return, a 5% return? How long does my money last? If you want to know about mutual funds, people invest in mutual funds. I'm not sure most people know what the purpose of the mutual fund is, or how it's run, or how much you own. You look at your statement, if at all, to see, did it go up? Did it go down? So let's look at those mutual funds. On the FINRA website, and that's FINRA, all caps, .org, one of the things that happen is you can do a mutual fund analyzer. How does this particular mutual fund that you want to invest in, how does it compare to other in the same type of sector? It's free to you. They don't keep your information. They don't care what fund you are looking at. And no one should be asking you any personal information for you to go in and use that. Another really good resource for all of us, AARP.org. They have a separate financial section that gives a great deal. They have calculators of all types. How long will my money last? How much money can I withdraw from my retirement accounts? If I change up from the 4% rule, is that, can I afford this year to take 5%? Or does that mean I can only take 3% next year? There are all sorts of calculators, again, that are free to you, except you have to join AARP. I think their price these days is $12 a year. But it is, again, a financial resource that you have available to you. Charities. I want you to give to my charity. I'm a 501c3. You can check that before you write a check or give them a credit card number, whether it's a mail solicitation or email solicitation, or if you're a person that goes on social networks like Facebook and LinkedIn and others, you can check them out, then ask the question before he gives his money. So how much of this goes? If I give you $100, does $5 go to the charity actual's work and $95 to the company that's doing the solicitation, or vice versa? The state of Illinois also has on a website, they can tell you if it is a bona fide 501c3 charity. They can tell you the percentage of what goes to administration and what actually goes to programming. It's a nice way of informing your contribution. And again, nobody keeps your information. Nobody is going to then take oh, you looked at us on this website, now let me solicit you even more. That's not going to happen. We still get telephone solicitation, cold calls. Even when I get the one for the Fraternal Order of Police, my first response is, I don't do telephone solicitations. If you want to send me paperwork, fine. And I'm not giving you my address. You already have my phone number. I'm not giving you my address. Send it to me in paper. If it's not worth sending it to me in paper, it's not worth my donation. I want to read, I want to see where my money is going. I don't know you from anybody else. You're getting paid to make this phone call. So give me what I need in order for me to be comfortable. Again, ask questions. Stop. Think. If you're on the computer and it's an email, where's the email coming from? Simple, one click. Look at the email address. Does it make sense? When you get a letter in the mail soliciting you and saying we need you to verify your information, usually up in the right-hand corner, they say what your account number is, and they put down the first 3 to 4 numbers as if they're blocking the rest for your protection. Every MasterCard starts with the same 3 numbers. Every American Express starts with its own 3 set of numbers. Same with MasterCard. It's a ruse. It's another way of making you believe that this is valid when it is not. So what kind of questions should you be asking? Why me? Why do you want to give me this wonderful opportunity? Why me? How'd you find me? And why do I want to do it? And what do you get out of it? The person who is soliciting, what do you get out of it? And people think, oh, I couldn't ask that question. Why not? You should be asking your broker, how much do I pay you for a trade? If anything, where is my money going? You have that right to ask. If you are deciding on whether or not you want to go with this fabulous offer, what's the downside cost to you? What are you going to lose? If you're in retirement, do you have enough time to make that up if it goes south? If it is an investment that's being asked of you and you do not understand what it is, I don't know if you ever listened to the radio and the financial radios like Squawk Box. They like to talk about an investment called a SPAC, S-P-A-C, a SPAC. Everybody's investing in SPACs. Do you know what a SPAC is? Why do you want to invest in it if you don't? What's the difference between a SPAC and an initial public offering or an IPO? What's the downside? What's the upside? Who's doing the offering? Who's the underwriter? How much money can I lose? How much money can I make? Before you give anybody a penny, ask the questions. The other 2 questions you should be asking when somebody's offering you something, if it's an investment, is the person who's making the offer, are they registered with the state, depending on the size of what the offering is? Are they registering with the SEC? What is it that's being offered? Depending on the type of investment being offered, there are a few exemptions where they don't have to be registered, but very few. And again, if you can't find out by going to the SEC website to see if they're registered with us, why are you even giving your money? It's gone. Might as well walk in the casino door, take your money, throw it up in the air, because that's how much security and that's how much you're gonna get back. Whatever you can pick up off the floor quick enough before everybody else gets it. All of this to say, again, stop, ask, why me? Why now? What do I get out of it? Who is it that's making me this offer? What do I get? What do they get? And what do I lose if it all goes south? What's it going to take me? You know, none of this is hard. None of it's magic. We just want to rush. We are in a world of rush. If one thing the pandemic year has taught me is very little needs to be done right away. You have time. Take the time. Open your mail, or if you do everything online, open your statements online. When you're reading through, and do read through them. When was the last time you read through a financial statement from the bank, from your investments? Read through them. Does it all make sense to you? If it doesn't, there's an 800 number on the page that you can call and say, walk me through this. And they will. They have to. It's not something that they can say, no, I don't want to do this. They have to walk through, and they have to answer all your questions. If it doesn't make sense to you, wrong investment advisor if they can't explain it to you. Wrong investment if you don't totally understand it. There's more than one out there. Going back to what Ben said too, pressure. If I am pressuring you, today is the day. If you don't do it today, we are out of luck. We are not going to be able to ever have this investment again. Wrong investment, move on. It's just not meant. It's not meant to be. Anything that has to be bought today or you lose out, lose out. Lose out. As opposed to tomorrow saying, why did I do this? And now it's gone and I can't get it back. SEC.gov, investor.gov, FINRA, FINRA.org, Illinois Secretary of State Securities Division. All of these are wonderful resources, whether you are about to retire, you've already retired, you are going through some questionable times with your finances. They can all help you with resources to figure out, where do I stand? How do I go on to the next step? In Oak Park River Forest area, we have wonderful senior resources available through the townships, that if for some reason you have a caregiver, never give your caregiver the right to write checks on your behalf. You know, have a family member do it, not that they can't rip you off as well, but don't put that pressure on the caregiver or yourself. Pay attention. Don't leave your checkbook out. If you still write checks, everybody doesn't. Some people just do everything online. Protect yourself. Take the time to look at the information that comes to you monthly, quarterly, or annually. Credit cards and things like that. Putting a credit freeze on with the 3 credit organizations, simple to do. What does it do? It protects you from somebody opening a credit card in your name. If you freeze it, it doesn't mean you can't open a new credit card or get a new loan. It just means when you go to do that, you need to call them and take it off temporarily till they get the information they're looking, and then you put it back on, and it costs you absolutely nothing. If you haven't looked at your credit report in more than a year, look at your credit report. Read your credit report. What is on there? Is it accurate or not? You might find that they are crediting you with things, late payment, that isn't yours. They make mistakes. Go through, call them up, and start the process to get it changed. Do people have questions?
So I do see a couple questions in the chat. Thank you so much, Emily. That was very helpful as well. I'll start with maybe some of the questions in the chat, but I just want to remind the group that everyone is invited to unmute yourself. And if you'd like to be on camera, you can turn your camera on and ask a question that way as well. But to start, first question is, what is the most common fraud case in this community?
I can't give you an answer to that because I don't know an organization that tracks specific types of fraud in a given area. I know the SEC does not, and a part of that would also be a problem of people failing to report. You have to, you know, in order to get statistics like that, you have to have people who are willing to raise their hand and say, I got scammed and I got scammed from this was the deal for me. You know, they walked up to me in Jewel's parking lot. They had the envelope. They had $1,500. I saw it. They told me if I gave them 500, I could have half of that, so I'm ahead to 250. I don't know of an organization that keeps those records. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't break it down in that way. I would say, just in my experience, it's definitely been that IDES scam that I mentioned in the last year. Before that, I would say it was the IRS scam that I mentioned, or something similar, which is why I highlighted those two. But those imposter scams, and often our residents call either an officer or me directly to just let us know that, hey, this happened, like they tried, they didn't get any money from me, but they tried. And so sometimes it's just kind of a community information thing to let us know that that's on the rise. And so those are the two, I would say, since I've been in this position, those are the two that I've seen the most, and since 2019.
Okay. How many cases of fraud have been reported so far in 2021?
Financial fraud, I couldn't tell you how many cases the commission annually gets more than 100,000 complaints, which may or may not be fraud, depending on what they're alleging. Ben, what do you get? Do you have a number? Do you keep a number?
If we're talking low, like within our department, I don't know off the top of my head. I could look that up if you want to contact me directly. We could look into that. But what in investigating some of these things, what I've been told, and either by myself or having residents following through the process and contacting the credit card companies, my understanding is that some of these credit card companies deem it more expensive to create further security features on the cards and on the accounts than to just pay out the cost of the scams. So, with the new credit cards, they had the little chip, and that was defeated pretty quickly. And but I was looking into it because I heard that in Europe there's some other feature that we don't have. And I was pretty much outright told that, yeah, it's not cost effective to instill that. We'd rather just pay out the loss from the theft. So, that kind of lends to why we're seeing such a high amount of fraud and fraudulent activity. So I don't have those numbers, but you can kind of see the mindset by some of these major businesses.
Rez shared his experience in the area, so I'm just going to read that, and I don't know if either of you had any thoughts on it. He said, I have recently been receiving calls allegedly from the Chicago Tribune from very polite individuals who claim that they were sure it was my oversight, but that I have a remaining balance on my newspaper subscription and asked for my credit card information. I was suspicious and asked them to send me an invoice. They would just call me back. With each call, the pending amount kept changing. Just as Officer Ransom suggested, I asked questions. I did not give them any of my information. These people may also have seen that I get the Tribune on the outside of my front entrance.
That's right. It's amazing how much information people can glean just by looking at your front door stoop, But that one's a new one for me. Ben, have you heard that one before, where they're asking for, calling you and asking you for the money?
No. I mean, I've seen, working here and at home in my own life, I've seen the Chicago Tribune. And, sometimes that's even a little fishy. Like, I left to go to the grocery store one time, and I came home and my wife had subscribed us to the Tribune, but someone came by, and I was not too thrilled with that. Mostly because I don't get my news from the newspaper anyways. But that's the thing, is like, what is the, what else, if we're giving a credit card or something to sign up for this, even though you might be receiving the paper for the next 20 weeks or whatever, what other information are they looking for? Why do they want to get you signed up? Assuming that it's not actually just the Tribune. But yeah, I would say, obviously, good job, and you recognize that they possibly see that you receive the Tribune already, and so they're using that to inform their decision and how they approach you. And also you see that you're able to see that they can't stick to their story. And that's why we tell you to ask questions, because the more questions you ask, the more their story unravels and the more they can't provide information. And it just gets easier and easier then to say no, if you even want to give them the time of day. Otherwise, click. But go work, Russ. Thanks.
Okay, this one is sort of a multiple part question. So I'm going to read it all the way through, but I can always repeat any part of it if because there's a lot here. My friend's email was hacked and all of her contacts were emailed the Amazon card scam. Are all of the contacts in any danger and should we change our emails? Should my friend? Also, what do you think of VPN as a protection and do you recommend the best VPN service?
That's out of my bailiwick, but I will tell you from personal experience, all of your friends should change their passwords. They don't have to change their email address, but change your password at a minimum. Ben, VPN?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say you have to change your email. And again, that's why we train you in how to receive these emails and make the right decisions. Because just if you change your email, it doesn't mean you're not going to get something else, because our emails are floating around everywhere. And that's probably the easiest thing that someone can obtain is your email. But it's are you clicking that link? Are you following this path? And are you getting taken somewhere you don't want to go? As far as VPNs, a VPN reroutes your IP address through a secure system, so things can't be traced back directly to your computer, and they can't view where you're logging in from. And so that's a secure. Those cost more money and stuff like that. I can't recommend any kind of service or anything like that through our police department or endorse anyone. I would say it really comes down to what kind of work you're doing. I mean, often VPNs are used more on the business end of things. Like I don't have a personal VPN for my personal account or anything like that. If it makes you feel safer and it gives you some more peace of mind, then I wouldn't say not to. But I guess it just depends what kind of work you're doing online and what kind of websites you're going to and stuff. I mean, if you're just doing simple correspondence and email and some online banking stuff, I don't necessarily think that's necessary to invest in a VPN. Emlee, what do you think about that?
I kind of agree. Again, it depends very much on what are you sending to your computer. I just completed my taxes, and the way my tax information from the accountant comes, it's password protected. I know what the password is, but if you were trying to just click into it, it's not something that's readily easy for you to try and figure out. I'm not a big enough fish in anybody's pond for them to want to take a lot of time trying to crack this. I suggest you never ever send your social security number. You never ever send a credit card number. You never ever send any kind of banking information. We allow people, we give up personal identifier information all the time without ever thinking about it. Stop doing that. Ladies, stop carrying your life in your purse. You don't need to carry your social security card. You don't need to put your full name on your checks, put an initial in their name. There's all this information that if somebody gets something from us, that they can figure out a whole lot of stuff. Stop making it so easy. Isn't that your son, John? No, that's Jim. Oh, right, Jim. I've just told you. It's an old fortune teller trick. I just told you the information that I was trying to get from you, you gave to me voluntarily. We do that way too often, way too often. But have them change their passwords.
Yep, good advice.
Okay, I shred all address envelopes in addition to more private info, which is shredded with the local community shredding events. Is shredding address envelopes overdoing it?
No. Ben?
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, I have a dinky little shredder at home, and we make good use of it, so nothing wrong with that at all.
And if you're not a shredder, they now make stamps, like through Michael's or whatever, where they're wavy lines that will black out your information by just stamping over it, that you've now taken away the ability, even holding up to the light, for people to read. If you're not a shredder or you don't want to get a shredder, you can also black out information that way. Simple, forget trying to line out information. Hold it up to the light. You can still read it most of the time. Don't do it that way.
All right, those are all the questions that have been sent through the chat. If anyone else has any more, feel free to send them in, or if you wanted to ask a question yourself, you can do that too before we head out. I just wanted to make sure to thank the River Forest Police Department and the River Forest Township for partnering with us today to bring this program to everyone. And of course, I want to especially thank Emlee Hilliard-Smith and Officer Ben Ransom for all of this really helpful information for everyone. So thank you both so much. If anyone missed part of the program today, it was recorded and we will be uploading it most likely within a few days to the River Forest Library's YouTube channel. I will be sure to send a link to everyone who's registered in case you want to watch it back or share it with a friend who might have missed it or someone else you know. So thank you all so much for coming. Does anyone have any final questions before we leave today? Okay, it looks like you guys have answered everybody's questions. So thank you so much, Ben and Emlee.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for having us.
Have
Bye-bye.
a wonderful day, everyone.